I don't think it matters because um, the starting of this game is confusing as shit. I thought you'd like it would be like the other ones where you start off as somebody and then you just kind of go and that's the game, right? Nah. So this game has multiple people that you can choose, and like obviously I think you have to go from the start and then keep going along, but you play as different people, like a lot of different people, and I don't know how like the upgrades are gonna work, but for some reason I can't delete my save. I wanted to test sheet out and launch my sheet, but I guess the saves go through the cloud and I can't delete them. So sadly, we can't watch the intro because I don't know how to fucking change my save. um. So yeah, I don't know what I'm doing. I haven't played Assassin's Creed in a hot minute. I was kind of hoping to get more of a slow start to this. Now I don't know what the fuck to put my camera. Um, we're gonna just pop it on the like down here, I guess. Like, I think we did this shoot before and fucking the other one. Fucking over. It's been many months. I think I might have to turn up just one, even though it's just fucking loud as shit. I'll turn it up one more. One bar changed by that much. Alright, so I don't know if maybe this is the tutorial. I don't know. Again, I don't know what the fuck I got myself into. Okay, I'm fucking going. I'm going. I don't know what the fuck I'm doing.
We will not prevail this night, but if you make haste, we may yet save our order.
What must I do?
Go to the tower. Take the sword and the book. Hide them. They must not fall into the assassin's hands.
Grandmaster,
Go!
Oh, already freezing? Okay, that's not good. Oh my. Oh. Oh. Oh, okay. Oh. Ah! Beach. Oh, I forgot my god at fighting this game. Beach. Okay. I don't really know what I'm doing. I didn't expect to kind of just get pushed into the sheet.
hold the bridge! Hold! Dad, we have to take a different way.
Okay. Okay. Alright. Damn, this is kind of slick though. Ooh, okay. But this is just getting you right into it. Alright. I like it. It was not supposed to go this way. That beach is dead. Okay. Yeah, I was not expecting just to push me into the sheet. Maybe I missed something. You gonna fucking go on the other side, you dumb beach? Get your ass on the other side. Am I not supposed to go? Yeah, I was supposed to go this way. Okay. Fuck do I go from here? I'm gonna go all the way up? Okay, what the fuck is happening? Damn, this beach can jump far. So yeah, we'll see. We'll see what the frick's going on with this. That should.
Stop it! Don't let him through!
I'm freaking coming through. Best believe I don't know if you're talking to me or not, but. Oh, shit. God, this is just getting me right into this sheet. Alright. Okay, that was the most unepic thing I've ever seen in my life. You little freaking beach. Can't run faster than me, motherfucker. Get your ass over here. Okay, I didn't really want that. Okay. Definitely need to change my camera location. Oh, how did this beach get behind me? Oh, how do you... Oh, okay, I gotta get used to the fight in this game now. Beach. Okay. Not playing Sekiro, I gotta remember that. Okay, just has a completely different bar than Sekiro. Nowhere near the game that I'm thinking about. Okay. Wow. You're gonna kill motherfuckers while I'm trying to kill you? Okay. Get some Elden Ring mechanics in here. What the f— we got magic in this beach? What the fuck? Let's move that shit like right here. I kind of forgot where I had it in last Assassin's Creed. God, they're just putting me right into this. What the fuck is happening, dude? Hey, this is the freaking main title. They told me to play this one next, so shit, I don't know. A freaking sick ass sword. What the frick is this supposed to do? That's how I would die? Okay. Yeah, this is the very first character that I could have played. All the other ones are locked, I'm pretty sure. Heck, I don't even know if I can fully play the other ones. Remember
Pope
there.
Clement, hear me? Before this year is out, you will answer for your crimes before God Almighty. And you, King Philip, no punishment is too heinous for the great evil you have inflicted upon the temple. I curse you! Curse you to the 13th generation of your blood! You shall be cursed!
Consumed in flames of hunger and wrath, thus came the age of true wisdom to a blistering close. The Knights Templar, once the proud shepherds of order, peace, and illumination, were no more.
Yeah, let's get a sniffer running. If Abstergo pings us, pull me out.
Here we go with Abstergo again.
Okay. I have a visual. Hey there.
Is this the same chick?
Probably disorienting, so I'll be brief. I'm Bishop, not my real name, obviously, but that's as much as you'll get today. Please listen carefully. Abstergo is using you, hijacking your neurons to help them sift through genetic memory data. These guys don't have their fingers in countless corporations, governments, media outlets, and NGOs.
Okay.
And now, they want control over history itself. If
Okay.
that doesn't frighten you, it should. But we're here to stop them, and I need your help. Deacon, preload gene sequence AD16, B13, I87.
Okay.
Last week, we gained access to
At least we ain't gotta deal with that beach like they did before.
Helix servers. For now, we'd like you to experience a small sample. This should help you understand our struggle. And after that, you can decide for yourself what comes next. We'll
Is
be
this
waiting.
the choosing for the characters again? Okay, this is wow. Okay, this is pretty freaking confusing. I don't know if I like this. Last one I played was Rogue, and that was like a dupe, or not a dupe, a freaking remake of freaking Black Flag, right? It's got nice. I don't know. 1776. Yeah, this game looks pretty good.
Honor.
Courage, my boy. You wait just here. I will return when this hand reaches the top.
That's forever.
Not as long as all that. And when I get back, we'll see the fireworks.
I don't think he's coming back.
And Arno, no exploring, hmm?
Yes, Father.
You know he's not a freaking explorer. He's a little boy. Freaking gonna have a kid sit there by himself. What's that? 15 minutes? Damn, this is freaking nice looking. This game was released in 2014? And here goes the exploring.
This way.
Why does this look really familiar to me?
Isn't that the Delasaga?
Sorry,
Quickly, quickly.
my bad. That's my chocolate quick.
Allez.
This looks hella familiar.
Bet you can't steal one.
The frick? Hell yeah, I can. Give me that sheet.
Thief!
Oh
Put
shit.
that back!
Oh shit. Berker pursues line of sight to create a last known position.
Put that away now!
Fuck that. See you later, nerd.
Got you now! Damn it! The hell's going on?
I'm serious. This is side view. Oh shit! I didn't get a chance to see it. Okay. No hair guy fills with yellow. The enemy is suspicious of you when it comes from the red they will enter. Okay. At least this is more of a freaking tutorial. Use last position to attract guards. Use your last position to attract guards away from the door. Attract guards away from the door. Okay, so I want to get their attention over here. So I want to get you. Oh no, it's me. And that's my last known. That's kind of cool how I can see that. That's interesting.
Through here.
Huh.
Did you see their faces when we stole those apples? I'm Arno. Elise.
Okay.
I'm here with my father. So am I. He has important business.
Met this freaking chick stealing stuff?
What should we do now? Shh. Listen. Don't worry, they'll never think to look for us in here. It was my fault. I'm the one who took the apple.
What?
Let's see where they're going.
Someone's dead. Okay, how the fuck do you walk so or run so quick? Oh, some beach on the floor. Dude, why does this look so familiar? And someone's stopping.
Monsieur, if we judge nations by the character of the
Elise.
prince,
Father?
we should all be called
Come here, girl. Now.
Father?
Is it my fault? Oh, rip. What, that beach got stabbed right then and there? Alright, well.
Come away, boy.
What the?
Arno. Arno. Look at me.
Everybody's like jittering. Can't remember when this game's 8 years old, alright. Okay, wait, what do those freaking little diamonds mean? Bitch, I need assistance. I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. 13 years later.
Can't win fairly at cards, so you stoop to thieving, you bastard!
Calm down, Victor. I've only come for my watch.
It's my watch. I want it fairly.
Well, in a just world, Victor, I would agree with you, but this is not a just world. This is France.
You're a dead man.
Oh, step lightly there. You'll hurt yourself.
I just had a nice chat with your brother. Hugo, fetch the marshals.
Hold on a minute. Diable.
Uh-oh.
Got it, Victor.
Get the fuck out of my motherfucking way, beach.
I say.
Don't get tackled, pass through. Hold the shift press to eat to pass through. Eat. Oh, sheep. Okay.
Pardon, madam.
Oh, okay. So I don't know if we're gonna go for the full sinks like I fucking way. I don't think we're gonna go for the full sinks like I did in the other games. Well, actually, I don't think I did in the other games. So yeah, I probably won't do it in this sheet. I mean, we'll try to maybe. Someone's like, ah! Someone's slowing down, beach.
Big-headed blacksmith like you probably can't even read a watch. Come over here and say that.
Uh-oh.
No. Get back here.
Huh, no.
Over there. Heaving up. Shall I pull a break?
How does this? Okay. This kind of sick. I kind of like this last known position sheet. I cannot make it to that. Alrighty then. Oops. Oh, okay. There's guns in this game. Okay, the music's sick. Okay, music's sick, not gonna lie. Okay, I'm gonna make this jump. I'm gonna make that jump. Oh my god, I made that jump with the food. Okay. Okay. What the fuck? Okay. Damn, dude, this dude can freaking jump. What the fuck? Okay, so we still got the eagle eye. Oh, what the fuck? Holy sensitivity. Okay. Oops, sorry, sir. Okay, I don't know what these diamonds mean on these districts. I'm gonna assume they're like difficulty ratings.
And where in God's name have you been?
Ha! Got you now, you little shit.
Just a little misunderstanding. Nothing to...
Your master's harboring a common criminal. In broad daylight, he broke into my home and stole my watch.
Did he indeed? Well, I'm sure the
Uh-oh.
Marshalsea would be more than willing to sort this out.
Sort what out, Olivier?
A most serious accusation
Olivia?
against your ward, sir.
He robbed me.
Of what, precisely? Wait for me in my library.
Oh, I mean, why would I wager my watch?
Don't give me that look. Victor cheats when he plays Pharaoh. Everyone knows it.
Arno? Who are you talking to?
No one, monsieur.
You'll be happy to
Hey,
learn
what's up,
that
Panda?
Olivier
What's up,
is
mate?
calling the Marshalsea.
So we're taking a little break from Sekiro because
The sixth
I'm in a new zone and I don't want to mess up anything with the ending. So
Well, I find playing
we're gonna get back
cards
to playing that on
many
Monday.
opportunities for fresh
I know
air and
it's a little
exercise.
different.
We'll talk about this later. I have business in town and must collect Elise before I can attend to it.
Elise is here.
Only for the night. She returns to Paris first thing tomorrow.
She'll need an escort. Won't she, with you so preoccupied?
One of you running amok is quite enough. Remain here and see if Olivier has any chores for you.
Sure he does.
What was that?
Give my regards to Elise.
Dude, I want to see like a before and after, or not a before and after. I want to see like a side by side comparison of like a 2010 2015 game to like a 22 game and just see the like the detail of the face and shit. Oh, fucking so sick. Is this new? See, this is Assassin's Creed Unity. This game was released in like 2014. I'm going through all the Assassin's Creeds. I played Rogue, and after Rogue is when I started playing Elden Ring, and then after Elden Ring I was supposed to play this. I wanted to play this, but Bagel kept suggesting me to play Sekiro, is it? So we kind of took a break from Assassin's Creed and started playing that. So, but yeah, I'm very confused. I was expecting like a one person going through the whole game, but on the menu when I started playing, there was like 15 different characters, and they're all locked except for one, which is this guy, the first one. So I'm assuming I'm playing through all those, but holy shit, it's kind of like threw me into it. Graphics look really good. Yeah, dude, they look freaking great. I think I have it on a very high. So, but yeah, this right here, dude. I don't think you guys can see like that good of lighting compared to what I can see, but I don't know where the fuck to put my camera. I kind of forgot where I put my camera at when I played the. Yes, I can look it up right now. But yeah, how you been, Panda? What's up, homie? Let me open up my stream on my phone so I can look at my past broadcasts and see how I had my where's my collections at? Here it is. I played, there's Assassin's Creed Rogue. Took me 21 hours. I had my camera like right above the, like right here. Yeah, I'll smack it there. See if it causes any conflicts. Good of you. Honestly, dude, today's going pretty well, dude. It's Friday. I got one more week of work, and then I'm off for like 9 days for like Christmas and stuff. So that's fantastic. We had like a little like retirement party for one of my coworkers today after work. So that's kind of why I'm streaming a little later than I wish you would. But it was good, dude. We talked, dude, laughed about work, and it was really nice time. I'm glad I went. I wasn't expecting to play this game today, but Bagel went to bed because I was kind of late on my stream because his time zone is freaking crazy. God, damn, this looks good. Holy crap, dude. I don't think freaking Rogue does this good. Holy smokes. God, look at that lighting, dude. Holy crap. So what is this? Single player missions 2%, total sync 1%. Okay, so I'm not going for that. What are these? Replays. Okay. Oh, I see co-op missions. I don't think we'll do co-op. Valhalla is free to play this week. Yeah, dude. I forget. I think Valhalla is the last one, right? I have them all bought though. I bought a collection of them like months and months and months ago when I first started playing Assassin's Creed. I didn't hear what this man said. So I bought them all. I heard that Valhalla is pretty good though. Like I've seen gameplay on it like a year, couple months ago.
Some trouble, mon ami.
A letter for Sire de la Serre. It's very important.
Oh, calm yourself, Perrault. That letter won't reach Monsieur de la Serre any faster if you drop dead of exhaustion. Give it here. Catch
You must receive it today. It's very
important. Yes, I heard you.
Damn.
The first time. I'll see that he gets it.
Okay. Damn, this game looks so, dude.
Stop! Bad luck, lad.
You'll have to go
Make
around.
way, make way.
You have to go around as I just climb up.
What was that?
Damn it, slow down.
Dude, this guy has some freaking hops, dude. This is crazy. Look at that sheet. What the frick? Frickin'
Apparently, walnut is a popular finish this season.
What the frick did that come from?
Who is driving this coach? Pelops?
Yeah, dude, this truck has some hops, dude. Holy crap. Freaking parkour, hell yeah. I like going through games like from start to finish. Like, how do I explain that?
Monsieur de la Serre.
Whew. I like playing like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 because I like seeing the progression.
I need is a bird's eye.
Wait, that wasn't him? Oh, I think I found bird's eye. I like seeing the graphic difference. I like seeing the gameplay difference, like controls. I don't know why, but it pleases me a lot. So that's kind of why I'm playing it in the order that they were released. But we're not playing like any of the knockoffs. We're only doing like the main ones. Let's see if I can remember. So we played 1, 2, 3, Revelations, Rogue, Black Flag, and I think this one. Far Cry story on every game is different, right? I played that was a good series too. I need to play Far Cry 6. The game was fucking great. I think so. I want to say it is. I had that on my Twitch too, but that was a while ago. Yeah, see, let's get this freaking good ass view. Here we go. Oh yeah, look at that. Damn, that's freaking nice looking, dude. Holy crap. Assassin's Creed 2. Well, no, I think 1 and 2 were the same. I think that the story was the same. I remember it was. Wasn't it? I think it was. Or maybe 2 and 3. Is that the same chick that what's it called? Ow. Myers. That was that little kid that was freaking talking about. Oh. First we use Eagle Eye and locate guards. Okay, I freaking knew that already, right? I'm freaking professional. Oh. Yeah, okay. Right. Excuse me. Yup, excuse me. Let me just, excuse me, sir. Yup, let me just, excuse me, sir. Let me just go. Frick.
Back of the line.
Damn it. Okay, that didn't work. Let's try it again. Excuse me. Hey, you guys coming this way? Excuse me. Let me just, excuse me. What the fuck? How the frick did that work? What? Yeah, dude, the Far Cry series was hella good though. I don't know how I got past that. Stealth 1000, dude, for real. I don't know how the fuck I did that. Hey, what's up, homie? Sue me. Oh, dude, even highlights doors? Oh, I guess it's already highlighted. That's freaking sick. Sorry. I feel like the Eagle version is a lot more polished since freaking Black Flag or Rogue. Also, I'm a huge fan of collecting stuff, but I don't like going for like 100%. I kind of just like going for like maybe like 80%. I'm getting these freaking subtitles. The region highlights objects, enemies, and targets around you. Has a cooldown time before it can be used again. Oh, has a freaking cooldown now? Oh, damn, that's actually a kind of a big cooldown. Wow. Wait, what am I doing again? Oh.
Not these two again. Must have tailed me from the estate.
No way they freaking can see me. What? I guess I'm wearing all black. Excuse me, sir. Excuse me. Excuse me. Excuse me. Excuse me. Excuse me. Excuse me. I don't get any freaking subtitles, bro. What the fuck this man's saying?
So, who or what will take its place? Another king? A council of capable men?
That is the question, isn't it?
A truce, then.
What the devil was that about? Now, we can resolve this without recourse to violence, can't we? Get him, Yuko! I suppose not.
Alright. Watch this.
Yeah, but
Oh.
Easy, big fella.
Well, I'll let you get a couple attacks in. Frick you, Peach. Oh, you can't dodge that. Oh. Oh, you're still. How did you survive this many so? How did you survive that? What?
Not your day, is it, Victor?
Game sound is low. Is it really? Give me 1 second.
To your health, gentlemen.
You boy! So, what are you doing there? Running.
Oh God. Okay, hold on 1 second. Let me freaking change some shit. How's the voice? Are the voices good or it's just or what? I can always turn it down on my end and then turn it up in your guys' end. How's the music? Can you hear the music? Music's pretty fire in this game already, from what I've experienced. Okay, well, we'll chill out 3 and we'll see. So I don't have to hold down frickin' space. It's kind of nice. Let's make some good maneuvers here. Whoa! Whoa! Excuse me, ladies and gentlemen. God, you're gonna shoot when there's a bunch of innocent people? Okay, I need you to just go a little faster. Come on, come on. You guys suck. You guys are good. Okay, These homies have some good aim. All right, I'm still getting used to the mechanics. I mean, I know how to play the Assassin's Creeds, but guards and boo the police. If you attack or kill anyone in the line of sight, they will attack. Do I have to? Why you gotta pull out guns though? Oh, I like that little maneuver. Oh, that was freaking easy. Oh, that was freaking easy. See you later, nerds. Oh, that's kind of cool. Freaking kickflip. Divorce is good. Oh no, sorry. I meant the game voice. Not bad. I like that movement. I mean, Assassin's Creed games have always been like, because it kind of like,
Back at home, I suppose.
it's weird. When I first played it, it was just weird. I haven't played any AC game. Oh really? Oh dude. Freaking 3. Honestly, dude, 3 was fire. Out of all the ones I've played so far, 3 was good. Black Flag was okay because they introduced like the ship stuff. But hold shift to sprint and I'm not gonna jump. Well, I mean, I already kind of know that. What the frick? Hold shift and space to jump higher and farther. Okay, I mean, I can't do that. Hold shift and E to execute a controlled descent. Okay, I didn't know that. Yeah, I totally forgot if I already said this. I was told after like 3, the game doesn't feel much like Assassin's Creed anymore, which honestly I kind of agree. It did change a lot after 3. But we'll see with all the other ones because I still have like 5 more to play. I'm broke right now. Yeah, well the thing is with all the games, they're freaking cheap. Well, at least they should be. Oh, you guys are. I don't know what the frick. Oh, I don't know what frickin' doing.
Hold a moment, citizen.
Frickin' frick you, beach. Okay, I kind of want to jump down and kill you, or oh.
I'll smash you, you gutless whore son. Piece by piece, pop
You want pike off, mongrel?
Frick you, beach. Beach. Ooh, I died. I parried that. Oh, oh. Okay, I'm getting. Oh my. Okay, this attacking is. Okay, this combat is that's a little weird. Okay, I'm getting used to it. Okay, I'm getting used to it. What was I saying again? Oh yeah, all these games should be pretty cheap. Ish, probably like a freaking couple dollars to be honest. Cause yeah, they're why are your eyes like that? I'm getting that freaking chest. See you boys, see you later. Alright, man. Well, thanks for stopping by, Panda. Appreciate it, homie. I hope you have a fantastic rest of your day, my dude. I'm gonna freaking slap these guys right now. Where's my like jumping attack?
Normally, like everybody else.
Beach. 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 God damn, you give me no time to freaking do a parry. Oh, I tried doing a double dodge. Yeah, I'm not sure if I'm a huge fan of the freaking combat so far.
Hey, come back here.
What the frick?
We'll cut you down and turn you off.
Okay. Interesting combat. Not sure if I'm a fan of it. Give him a freaking loot. 300. Hell yeah. Okay, so we still got. Give me your sheep. How the frick do you have soap on you? Guess I do get medicine. How the frick do I use that sheet? Like, I need more tooltips, alright? What the frick is a cherry bomb? Apron? How the frick do you have an apron on you? Okay, what's the map looking like here? Where's the map at? Oh, okay, I forgot how to use that. Oh, okay. It's the tab? Okay, it's tab. Wow, there's a lot of stuff to get here. Oh, dude, they made this 3D. What? Okay, what are these things? Are those the... Waha? The frick is that? What are these? Dude, they made this frickin' 3D? That's frickin' sick. Okay, initiate chest. What the frick does that mean? Shop. Progress tracker. Okay. Chest earn money. Okay, well, you know me. I like frickin' money. Alright. I don't know what the frick these things are. We're gonna find out. That's kinda sick. I like that. Oh, this is like this collectibles. Okay. Actually, let me grab one. See, those are the things that I probably wouldn't go for. Because, like... Okay, or at least I know. Yeah, these are things I probably wouldn't go for. Because... Okay, these are the viewpoints. Okay. Because... It's just not me. I don't know. I like collecting, but... Not like... That much. But I will grab all this other sheep. Okay, is this... I kinda want that marker back. What the frick is it? Is it below me? What the fuck? I'm supposed to just frickin' guess? Is it in here? She was blown, wasn't it? I'm pretty sure first one was blown. So. Okay, gotta get used to this movement again. Oh, dude. I wonder if they're gonna have the frickin' chests and stuff. Like they do in, the other... Oh... My. Oops. We fire any faction that... No. Come on. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Frick out of here. Oh, yeah, and I frickin' did reach. How the frick do I get that shit? Can I zoom my map out a little bit? Oh, dude, I just freaking walked by. Calm down, holy frick. Can I just climb this? Oh, it's freaking easy. Okay. Alright, which doors? Okay, not that one. Okay, I'd like to get that chest if you don't mind. Can I restart going in there real quick? I gotta get used to this. Low key, I kind of want to get in conflict more because I need to understand how that sheet works. Okay, I don't know what into it what the frick that says chest means, so we're gonna find out right about now. I'm pretty sure I'm about to get attacked with some sheep. What the frick? Yeah, how do I heal? Oh, you did, okay. Alright, so what do these mean? Okay, I got what, $50 more? Or F? Okay. You already know I'm about to buy the freaking best weapon I can, and we're freaking maxing everything. We're getting best sheet. Run that sheet. What's up, what up, homies? You guys happen to have a chest in here by any chance? I can just, like, you know, snag up real quick. FPS definitely is not like this place. Holy crap. I need to turn my graphics down just a little bit. I don't know how the fuck I didn't see you. Also, I think I need to turn down my sensitivity a tiny bit. Maybe just like 1. Yeah, money. Okay, you get a lot more money from getting those. Alright. Okay, let's peep out this chest. We need to check out everything. I gotta understand how stuff works. Alright, let's check out the shop, see what the frick we can buy. Let's see how much money I have, what it's worth, weapon-wise. What is happening? Okay, how it works. Oh, he's got a cool little freaking glow on it. That's kind of cute. That is a very big jump. Okay, so is that, do I have to press Q to heal, or is that just what? Wow, that was easy. Okay. All I can buy is freaking consumables. Okay, frick it, run it, buy freaking medicine. All right. There's a lot of stuff here. What the frick is all this sheet? Oh, that's gonna be fun. Okay. That's all I can buy, dude. I can't buy any freaking weapons. I mean, I guess I just started playing. Maybe we'll do what we did before. We'll get stuff kind of like when it's near an objective. I'm not gonna lie, that was kind of weird. My bad, homies. Continue along with what the frick you were doing. Whoops, sorry. Yeah, so we'll do that. We'll get the stuff like when it's kind of near where we gotta be, and if it's kind of out of the way, maybe I'll get it. Maybe I won't. Yeah, let's go back over here. I'm pretty sure this is our objective. But I would like to get a majority of the items here. That's the goal here. So, if I go there, I'm about to get attacked by these freaking guards. So, like, learn how to team up and become in a better assassin squad. Okay. I'm about to get caught in this, so freaking run it. I'm here.
I'm with you.
Oh god. What the fuck? What am I doing? What the? How are you supposed to get in here? Ow! I kind of forgot that I'm not like a god and I can't just tank all these freaking shots. How the frick do you expect me to get over there? What? Learn how to tackle co-op missions with precise and make the most for combined talents. Only assassins who communicate watch a video to learn more. Oh my god, it just opens up a video. And then there's a freaking error. Okay. Guess we're not watching the video. Okay, can I get like a... Okay, let's get the legend going up in this beach. Holy crap. Alright. Collectibles. Chest, lock chest, nomad, initiate artifacts, crocodiles, which is like the collectible sheets, sync points, nomad point, Napoleon's bighorns. What the frick is that? Calf theater rooms, assassination council, club hall. What the frick? Place of interest, shop, tavern, fast show, landmark, viewpoint. Social club, not renovate. Oh, it's renovation. Ooh. Hey, what's up, Easy Peasy? What's up, man? What's up? Main target, tail, main target, defend, find, kill, tail, defend, okay. Mod mission, co-op mission, heist co-op mission, Paris story, social club, murder, mystery, single player mission. Okay. Alarm, sniper, ally guard, enemy, bell ringer, Paris first time. What's up, homie? How's it going? Oh, so that wasn't even part. That's just. This is just some bullshit. I didn't think I need to go over there. What the fuck? Okay, what the frick is this nomad chest? Can I just? Oh, I can just move around like that. I knew that. Let me cop this nomad chest. I don't know what this is. Okay, not going that way. I'm just gonna go over here. Oh, sorry, homies. I crouch. Watch this, watch this. Oh, do I have any like things I can throw? I'm chilling. Had a little nice little evening with some coworkers. One of my coworkers is retiring next Friday, so we had like a little party because he's gonna be busy next Friday. So it was freaking cool. It was hella nice. It was a nice ass time. I'm gonna just grab this real quick if you guys don't mind.
What's your game then?
I don't give a frick. All right, cool. Thanks, homies. Appreciate it. Now they give a frick. All right, see you later. I'm freaking slow, bitch. You can't even catch up to my ass. Shut your ass up. Beach. Like I almost lost you just freaking climbing. Ow! Why you always got resort to shooting? Okay. I didn't mean to grab that. Piece of money. Alright, you know what? Fuck the chest for just 1 second. Alright, actually, you know what? I need to get him. No, never. We're getting them all. I need money. I'm broke. That's an old Borat joke. What the fuck is that? Oof. It's not space. Keep thinking it's space now playing the other games. I don't know what the frick I thought you guys were doing. This chest is not up here, is it? This is not up here. I just came up here for no reason. Oops. Sorry, homies. Didn't mean to intrude. You guys can go back to what you were doing. My bad. I'm just looking for a chest. I need money. I'm broke. Fuck some money at, dude. And where's that sheet at? Never heard of Borat? I mean, doesn't ring a bell. I haven't heard of a lot of sheet, to be honest, dude. I'm not with this day and age. Excuse me, sir. Where the it's on the second floor. Man, it's poking through the frickin' thing. What the fuck? What's up, what up, homies? You guys mind if I grab his chest real quick? Thanks. Totally just walked up in here. Thanks. Appreciate it. Whoa. We don't need to start pointing fingers. Whoa. I wasn't here. I'm so used to freaking having to WSD on the map. Did you yourself a favor and watch Borat? Bro, the amount of movies and shows I need to watch is fucking stupid, man. People at work make recommendations, like, well, no, sorry, references to movies, and I don't know what the fuck they're talking about.
Revolutionary bastard!
Ow! Oh, okay, don't do that.
You're mine.
Oh, see, I freaking laid it, homie. Oh. Oh. How are you still alive? I forgot how garbage is looting, guys. You guys don't give a shit. I don't know why I'm freaking looting you. I'm already maxed out on whatever the freaking bombs I have. Why the frick am I killing you? You guys freaking suck. No offense. Then again, yes offense. You guys suck. Something that Super Saiyan's the work related bullshit Rex. Alright, bet. You know what? Let me add that to my list. I'll put it on top. That's a move, right? Bora is an icon. Oh. What? It's in 2006. How have I not seen this? Hey, dude, I've freaking never heard of this in my life. Yeah, I'm so uneducated and like this. I have so much stuff to watch. I don't even know when the frick I'm gonna watch it. I keep saying I'm gonna watch it, but I never freaking do. I don't know why. This is definitely not where I wanted to go, by the way. I kind of wanted to go maybe like up. There you go. There you go. Sorry, homies. Didn't mean to intrude. God damn, this lighting. That's good. Sorry, homies. My bad. God, I can. Can you see that in the freaking grass? Oh, it's getting a little freaky in here. Alright, I didn't see that. You guys are good. Frick this maze, dude. I can't. Okay, never mind. Alright, is this what? Is this. Oh, what is this? Alright. It's kind of a garbage pan, not gonna lie. God, I need to forget I can't do that. I don't have to do that sheet. God, so many collectibles, dude. Give me all this sheet. I need money. Even though this is freaking garbage for money, but it all adds up. This is why it's taking forever to play these games, dude. Getting all the extra stuff. Is this shop gonna be the same as the other shop where I didn't have freaking jack sheet? Sorry, homie. I know you probably just cleaned that. My bad. Hey, you sell a different sheet? You do not. I'm gonna buy it though. Thanks. Sorry. Oops. Okay, is that actually on the roof or is that on the second floor? You know what? I'm taking a wild guess. That's just on the roof. That is definitely on the roof. Okay. My freaking money, beach. Boah. Yeah, how was your week, Mr. Easy? I got hops for days. Okay, maybe not. Watch this. Yeah. Oh my god. This man has some frickin' hops, dude. Come on, you can go faster than that. I'm not even holding on to that sheet. What the fuck? Oh man, I do not miss Assassin's Creed's movement, man. Holy. Oh, whoa. Sorry, homies. You guys got a chest in here? You do not. Okay. Sorry, I didn't mean to startle you. You guys all jumped up hella quick. I'm just gonna go down your stairs. Oh. Whoa, sorry. Sorry. Sorry, I'm just looking for a chest. Just looking for money. Sorry. Oh, okay. Money's not in here. Oh, was it not? Is that... Where did money at? Wasn't it upstairs? Was that not just there? You really can't get that? You freaking joking right now? Thank you. Didn't I already check up in the roof? The sheets in the roof? What the fuck? Oh. Oh, there's the third floor. Okay, let's go now. Alright. Dude, once this shop opens with a bunch of stuff, dude, I'm gonna be able to buy everything. Yeah, I've already been playing for an hour. Freaking hell, almost $2 grand already. Yeah, boy. Oh, shit. Let's see here. I guess we can go the frickin' boring way. Okay, definitely did not want to go down, but I guess it works. This guy has some frickin' parkour skills, man. Holy frick. God damn. Alright, that's gonna be in that frickin' window. 100%. No frickin' shot, it's not. So, I'm gonna drop down on you guys. Hope you guys don't frickin' mind. If I just drop down here real quick. Hey, how's it going? Are you guys in a fight? Alright, Nomad point. What the fuck does that mean? Alright, let's try and get these two things before we get the main objective here. Yeah, I've already gotten 10 chests already. God, why does everybody just instantly drop their sheet and stand up every time? What the fuck? I'm not that scared. I kind of hate how they don't have like the background like more appealing to look at. It's just freaking trees and grass. I feel like the other games did something with that, right? They added some like sheet to it or something. I'm really glad I didn't fall down. Definitely wanted to go into the window. There you go. Oh, it's right here. Sweet. My 100 smackaronis. Alright, where's this chest at? Is this chest down? Yes, it is. Alright. God damn, the lighting in this game looks good, dude. Okay, it looks like it's lit up right here. I don't know if I'm going to activate this quest once I... Pretty sure I'm about to activate it like right about now. I am not going to. Never mind. Yeah. Alright, what the frick is this nomad point sheet? It's like right here. I don't know what that is. Maybe the game will eventually show me that sheet. What's this? What do you got going there? Let's leave to Paris in the morning, sneak into the ball at the... Just been leaving it there. Does she even remember me?
Bonsoir, Olivier. Has Monsieur de la Serre returned?
Senor de la Serre is not expected until late.
Ah, well. I suppose I'll just pass the time with Elise then.
Don't get your hopes up just yet. Mademoiselle is at a private soiree in her honor at the palace.
A party? I wasn't invited.
Neither were the horses.
I'm sure she just misplaced my invitation. I'll find my own way in. How late is late?
Perhaps an hour, perhaps 3, perhaps not at all. I do not question the comings and goings of my betters.
Damn.
I'll just wait here then.
Well, that's freaking boring. Hi, I was just there. I am going to the exact same spot I got that chest. Not easy money. What the fuck are we doing here?
Le traité du monde et de la lumière de Descartes. Never could get through that one. I could just slip it under the door. He'd see it the instant he returned.
I could. I can feel the choppiness, dude.
There. Safe and sound, and only slightly delayed. And now, to the palace. I couldn't sneak through a sewer in these threads, much less a ball. Here, here, mon ami. Let me take care of that.
Thank you, young man.
Never seen me in his life. I'll just take a sheet. Oh, dang, okay, looking fresh, okay.
Maximilien Robespierre. No guest.
Arno. Le Chevalier du Télème.
Invitation, s'il vous plaît.
About that, I had one, of course, but on the way...
No invitation, no admittance. Now clear the queue. Next, please.
Down.
Charles Gabriel Siver. 2 guests. Next, please.
Oh, that was easy. Damn, no freaking knee. Damn, okay.
Quite the turnout. Quite.
I don't like how there's a delay, man. What the frick? Why there gotta be a delay? Excuse me, ladies and gentlemen. Excuse me, sorry. Oh, whoa, excuse me.
Let's just put in a short appearance to be polite. I'm tired.
As you say.
I think I'll notice if a guy just jumps up and this that. Probably not, right? Nah, no one will even notice the freaking thing.
What was that?
That guys are freaking slow as fuck. The fuck do you not see that?
Third estate, practically. Up in arms, and they're having a party.
What's this party for, anyway?
Not sure. Some kind of confirmation ceremony for the De La Serre girl.
What happens if I knock you out? Oh, I have to. You gotta hold that longer. I thought it was just like a. Oh. Okay, good to know. I'm learning. I mean, I literally just did this not that long ago, but.
Third estate practically up in arms, and they're having a party.
What's this party for, anyway?
Not sure.
Not sure. Oh, I'm knocked out. How the frick you knocked out but still moving? Huh? Practice, dude. I'm practicing myself.
Rest in peace.
Thought you could sneak in?
Look, man, I need this. I need to practice my stealth. I'm new here.
Third estate.
Also, how does this guy not recognize?
They're having a party.
What's this party for, anyway?
Not sure.
Not sure. I don't even think I have to knock these guys out, but it's just kind of fun. I need more stealth. Where's the pebbles I can throw? I need some pebbles in this beach. Okay, let's just not do that. Okay, let's just not do that. Okay, guess I can't go on that because yours. Okay.
Is your shift changed yet?
Okay, this is not okay. These controls are a little frickin' weird, man.
Look at that one. Pretty sure
Shut
his
the fuck
shoes
up.
cost more than my rent.
Damn. Okay. Yeah, I'm selling your shoes, beach.
She does not.
You up there! Stop! Get down!
Will you let me back in if I do?
What? Certainly not!
Well then, if it's all the same to you, I think I'll stay up here.
You, come here.
God, I'm so freaking cocky. I love it.
Yes, of course.
Oh, who the frick are the golden guys? Oh, these are the guys that I can. Wait, who the frick are the golden guys? Sue me. Fuck are you guys? Okay.
M'accorderiez-vous cette danse pour gentilhomme?
Merci. Un autre jour.
See you frickin' later.
For sure, the plebs would riot this afternoon.
New taxes and so I said to her, Marie,
I have claws.
what do you expect? She's half savage.
Must be made a mock of by the likes of you.
That's cool. She's wearing the same thing as she did. Like, how long was that? 7 years ago? No, that wasn't 7 years ago. No, it was like 7 and then 8. Oh, I don't even fucking know.
She always did love the chase.
freaking quick did you go, woman?
You seem to have caused quite a commotion.
Well, what can I say? You were always a bad influence.
Oh, you were a worse one.
Alright, guess they're an item.
Are you wearing one of my father's suits?
Are you wearing a dress?
Don't even start. I feel like a mummy wrapped up in this thing.
Must be quite an occasion to get you so fancy.
It's not like that. Truth be told, it's a lot of ceremony and pontification. Dull as dirt.
Well, when you don't invite me to your parties, everyone suffers.
I did try, but my father was adamant.
Your father?
Go. I'll distract them.
What? You're kicking me out?
It's complicated. I'll explain later, but for now, out the window.
Oh, no, no, no. You're not turning this into a repeat of that apple orchard.
Stop being such a baby. I'm sure there aren't any guard dogs this time. Go! Oh my! That wasn't the billiard room at all, was it?
Oh, right. Not exactly the... Okay, well, I mean, at least I know that we were an item.
Could have been on pound. No. Waste of time. There's nobody out here.
So you think. That is not a door. I'm over here thinking that was a freaking door. Alright, well. Sorry, homie, but you're getting knocked out. Thanks for your fucking stuff, bitch. Where did the other homie go? There he is. Okay, you're for sure gonna freaking come back over here. God damn, these freaking controls are so confusing. What the fuck? Get behind the freaking cover. Okay, getting used to these controls. Wowzers. Are you really not gonna freaking... I kinda like that. It's kind of interesting working. Kinda like that. Are you not gonna turn around? Can I just go behind you and freaking knock you out? Beach looking. Finish him with a freaking punch in the goddamn throat.
10 to 1 I end the night cleaning a rich man's vomit.
Big mistake leaving your homie here. Big, big mistake. Big boy mistake. Yeah, one of you guys is bound to turn around in about 5 seconds, huh? I know as soon as I go on there, you guys are gonna frickin' turn around. Frickin' gosh, shit's gonna happen. Am I gonna do it anyways? Probably. Holy frickin' FPS, man. Jesus. Okay, well, I can't really seem to distract you, so I'm just gonna frickin' hope and pray they don't see me. And of course it didn't, because they're frickin' bitch.
Alright, monsieur. Too much of the king's champagne? Monsieur? Monsieur de la Serre? Monsieur de la Serre!
Sylvia, come away!
Guards! Help! Murder!
What? Damn.
Mon Dieu, he's killed Lord de la Serre.
I didn't do that shit. Alright. That wasn't me. That was someone else. That wasn't me.
No, it wasn't me. Damian wielded the knife. Please, have mercy.
Talia es omnis divisa in partes
Hey, you telling me I get framed that easily?
They're killing us! Oh God, have mercy! They're killing the prisoners in here!
That's enough of that, you degenerate!
Where am I?
In hell.
This is how I go out. Out of all that shit, I just freaking get knocked out, freaking in jail. What the frick is this supposed to be, man? Who the fuck is this? Who the fuck are you? What in the world is happening?
What are you staring at, piss pot?
This pot.
Don't bother me, boy.
What the fuck? Alright, my bad. Shoot. Smell freaking drugs.
Welcome to your new home.
Thanks. Alright, see you later, I guess. Garbage ass freaking bed is this? Has that time actually changed since I've freaking been playing? Okay. I didn't even say hi. Okay.
Where'd you come by this, piss pot?
I'm in no mood for this. Give it back.
Take it back. If you think you can.
What the frick is that guy doing in the back?
My grandmother eats harder than that. She's
Ow. Beach. 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 Come on, hit me again. Hit me again. Beach. Ah. 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 Beach.
Well struck, piss pot.
Oh my
See if your defense is as good.
Fucking stupid ass freaking defense sheet. Come on, hit me. Come on.
So much effort for a broken antique.
The only broken
Beach. Come on, do that shit again.
Say that again.
Freaking beach. 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 Ah. What is it? When an enemy's life bar flashes yellow, press E. Life bar flashes yellow. Okay, it's not really. I mean, I'm parrying. Is that a perfect parry? I mean, he's not really flashing, but.
Give me what's mine, and go back to your crazy drawings, old man.
Drawings.
He's here. Everywhere. Scribbled like chicken scratches all over this cell. Where?
Come here, you little piss pot.
Get your hands off me.
Look at the wall.
What are you doing?
Concentrate. Concentrate.
What are they?
Messages from the past. I had myself thrown into half the prisons in Paris in search of these. What's your name, boy?
Arno. Arno Victor Dorian.
Dorian. Of course. Pierre Belec. I knew your father.
Bully for you.
He died at Versailles in what, 76, 77? December, as I recall, no witnesses.
How did you...
Your father was an assassin, Arno. He gave his life, fighting for the liberty of all mankind. You stick with me, you might just live long enough to join the Brotherhood. Honor your father's memory.
Damn.
Listen, I'm sure your little cult is a delightful bunch, but I'm not interested. The only thing I care about is finding Elise.
How are you planning on doing that from in here?
Got him. Okay. 2 months. Come on, dude, I'm better than that.
Focus, Pisspaw.
What the hell is going on out there?
Citizens are restless. Keep an ear open. Opportunity might just come knocking soon.
That was cannon fire.
Sometimes opportunity sounds a lot like cannon fire.
Secure the prisoners.
Follow my lead.
Oh, shit. Here we go.
Castle!
Oh, we're gonna sneak attack these motherfuckers.
Prisoners up against the wall. On whose authority?
I told you this was going to end badly.
Silence! Stay back! Prisoners up against the wall. Stay back!
What the frick does Hold E do? Oh. Oh, shit. I just knocked him out. I didn't know. Okay.
Right. Let's get out of this shell.
Oh, it was freaking easy.
No matter what happens.
Can you, like, maybe knock on it up?
Keep them off me for a bit, Pisspot. One of them stabs me. I'll put you to an early grave.
Freaking beach. Man, these guys ain't shit. Oh man, I forgot how much of my god freaking this game.
Belec, is the door open?
Hold on 1 second, let me get loose equip. Whoa! Fuck out of here. Oh shit! What, you guys not gonna attack me?
No need to. You've got to be kidding.
How the frick was that? Okay, never mind, I figured it out.
Out the window. Come on. With you.
Out the window, alright. Go out the window. That's the freaking window. Okay, I'm not very good at going out the window. Okay, we gotta get used to this freaking movement, alright. Okay. Okay. Oh my. Yeah. Open that sheet.
This way! Fire! Fire, damn you! Stop the prisoners!
They didn't even fire. Back in my cells. You think we're freaking going back in there? Oh! 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 my freaking gun at? Or my freaking gun at, huh? Oh! Oh! Get slapped.
Where now?
They all disappeared.
Brilliant. And how do we get down again? Trust me.
Alright.
I surrender. I surrender.
Yeah, haha, yeah, you're right, Beach.
This way.
Make that.
What are you waiting for, Pissbot? It's time to jump. What? Prison scrambled your brains, old man. Drink took care of that a long time ago. Now get up here! I can't, that's impossible. Impossible? That's the purview of every assassin boy. If you can pluck your head out of your own arse, come find us. Make a great fit. Goodbye, Pisspot! You! Back away from the ledge!
Oh. See you later, nerds. Oh, this is freaking cool. That was the intro? Hour and a half long intro? That was pretty cool though. Huh. Alright.
Please?
That's some welcome.
One can't be too careful. Not after what happened.
Elise,
Haven't you done enough to repay my father's kindness?
Elise, please. You can't believe I killed Monsieur de la Serre. Your father, he wasn't the man you thought he was. Neither of our fathers were.
I know exactly who my father was, Arnaud. And I know who yours was. I suppose it was inevitable. You an assassin, me a Templar.
You?
Does that shock you?
Ah, of course she is.
My father always meant for me to follow in his footsteps. Now all I can do is avenge him.
I swear to you, I had nothing to do with his death.
But you did.
No. No! By my life, I swear I didn't. Is that?
A letter intended for my father the day he was murdered.
So she did some shit. What the boot?
Read it.
I can't get this freaking duct tape off my finger. Hey, what's up, Lindsay?
I have learned through my agents that an individual within our order.
Yeah, originally I'm playing through Sekiro, but a homie that watches me is not able to join today, so
No one, not even those you call friends.
I decided to play this instead.
May the Father of Understanding
Put
guide
duct tape
you.
on my finger to prevent
I found
having
that
to get a
on the floor in
band-aid.
my father's room.
And
Unopened.
not really going too well.
Didn't know.
Neither did my father.
How could I have
Oh,
known?
oh my god, my hand is freaking sweaty. Damn, that got me hella good. Damn. Okay, what are we talking about? My cat is attacking us right now. Hey, yo, freaking tell her to back up, dude. You look good. Yeah, dude, I'm just confused, man. Like, it threw me in here, like, boom. I like it's like an hour and a half long intro. There's like it's 15. No, it's like 15 different people for stories. They're all locked except for the first one, which is this guy. I don't know what the frick's going on. Oh, what was she talking about? The physics in this game are kind of weird. Like the hair keeps flopping around with like no reason. I do miss the movement of Assassin's Creed though. I haven't played Assassin's Creed game in like 6-7 months. Should probably longer than that. Oh yeah, we're gonna freaking join his squad.
The devil is this supposed
You can figure that shit out. That's easy. I can do that in my sleep. Maybe. Damn, this is what you call a fucking screenshot. Paris is now open. You can now explore the city. I'll play the next single player mission to continue our Noah story. Okay, cool. I couldn't do it already. Hell yeah. Sequence 1 is done. Alright, check this out. Nah, dude. Nah. That's a fucking screenshot. I don't know if it looks like it on stream, but god damn, looks good. I don't give a fuck about that. Let me see the map. Oh, ho, yeah. Now we're talking about freaking language. Alright. Okay, let's see what the frick's going on here. What is this sheet? Paris stories. What the frick is this sheet? Sequence. Okay, so that's the regular sheet. What is this? Murder mystery. This is the viewpoints. Okay, we got a freaking sheet load of viewpoints. What is this? Artifact. I don't think I've gotten one of those yet. Oh, that's the thing I don't give a frick about. Okay. Oh, dude, I forgot I can go 3D. Dude, that's so freaking cool. Look at that sheet. That's so cool. I can rotate that sheet, even though it's just a bunch of stuff floating up and down. It still is cool. Alright, where the frick am I at? Okay, so we got. Okay, let's peep out this chest and then let's go get where the frick this murder mystery sheet is. Oh, shop. Does that sheet update? 350 for that one? Ooh. Can I unlock it? Ooh. Lockpicking. Gimme. Ooh, what the frick's going on here? Oh, would you look at that? A bunch. What the frick is that gonna do? Can I do like stealth attacks or
Get the hell out of here, Rump. Those who oppose us, die!
knock his ass out? See there, nerd. Beach. Frick out of my goddamn face. There's no way you're alive. Beach. Die already. Thank you. Give me your sheet. I don't know how you're still alive. God, you are spooked up. Did I knock your ass out? How you moving? Oh, yeah. I got some lockpicks in the sheet. Alright, here we go. Let's see how hard this is. You cannot pick locks without the... How the fuck do I unlock the lockpicking skill? How the fuck do I do that sheet? What the fuck? I do kind of want to check out this freaking shop. Where are the skill points at? Give me 1 second. I'll do your sheet in a freaking like. Yeah, I'll do your sheet. Hold on. Wait on. Wow, what's up, Lindsay? What you up to, man? Okay, there's a thing called going into Windows. There you go. Alright. Please tell me you got more to sell. Thank God. Okay, what the frick you got, homie? Smoke bomb, cherry bomb, medicine. Alright. Attracts target to impact location for a short duration. Okay, so I do have those. Okay. Blind targets causes the cloud shields from view of those outside the cloud. Okay. I have 2,000. Okay, 5,000. I'm probably never going to use these. I never use that sheet in the other game. Or games. Down. Alright. Respect it. Alright. Let's peep out this assassin's sheet right here. Or Paris store, where the frick this sheet is. How the frick do I get in that beach? What the frick is happening? Hey, where the door at? Oh, sorry. See me get the frick out of my goddamn way. Frick out of my goddamn way. What's up, homie? Steal sacred objects to gain admission to the Baphomet code? What the fuck is that? High difficulty mission. Buy skills, weapons, or equipment to increase your level. How the fuck do you buy skills? I don't need to upgrade. Give me that shit.
Cult of Baphomet. You must steal 2 holy chalices from the Cathedral of Notre Dame and bring them to me.
That's freaking easy money. Fuck out my goddamn way. Fucking my. What the fuck is there so many people in here? Fuck on my goddamn way. Airline Bros, no, I press E to. Is that what that's supposed to be? Oh, it's okay. Okay, who the frick are these? Who the frick are the green people? I have so many questions, dude. I don't know what the frick is happening. Oh. Oh, whoa. Oh, whoa, 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 whoa. Oh, I'm just passing by, my guy. Oh, I don't know what the frick's going on here. Now you guys can deal with that, right? I'm gonna go over here if you don't mind. Thanks. Okay, cool. What's this? Dude, where the fuck do I buy skills at? Where the skills at? The frick am I supposed to get? How do you buy the frickin' skill? Give me that sheet. Okay, I'm gonna take a wild guess. I probably need to get access to this frickin' door. I don't know what the frickin' nomad point is, but I want to figure that sheet out. What the frick is happening? Give me up in the speech. Oh wait, no. Those icons are the things I'm supposed to get. That's kind of cool how I can do that. Wait, but this is the freaking nomad point. What the frick is this? Was this part of the objective, or is this just some extra sheet? This freaking. That's pretty cool. Okay, I'm supposed to go this way. Is this all the way up here? Okay, what the frick is that? Collectible? I'm not gonna use it as. Okay, dude, give me a freaking chance to read that sheet. Okay. Where was that sheet at? Different playstyles? That's kind of cool. When do I choose that? That's pretty cool. I think I need to get access to where the frick the sheet is, but I don't know where the frick to buy skills at. Maybe I need to do more of the story of where the frick. Yeah, well, we're pretty much already there, so we might as well get this. Okay. Oh, so you can recollect that sheet? Ah. Interesting, okay. Forgot to worry about that. interesting way of conversing down. I like it. Okay. Come on, my guy. You know how to go down. Come on. You don't need me to freaking hold your hand, bitch. Come on, check it out. There you go. Thank you. Okay. Just jump off, bitch. Jump off. Thank you. Oh god. Okay. No, go up here first. There you go. Good job. Oh damn, that's pretty slick. Can I go up right here? I sure can. Alright. What about oh. The fuck do I get up there? I can't go up right here, right? Nope. Maybe I gotta go on this one and then jump across. That is exactly what I have to do. Aha, I'm freaking smart as shit. Okay, come on. Oh, now you want to go up it? Well, you couldn't go on the other ones? Freaking sense. What kind of freaking jump was that, bro? Jesus. I'm assuming that that is not the replay. This is the freaking replay. Yeah. Okay, this looks a lot more populated. That's a lot of freaking people down there. God. Damn. Okay, sick. Let's see what I unlocked. Oh, look at all that shit. We got hella sheet now. Nothing that really is tickling my fancy here. Okay, we got a freaking lot of underground passage. Maybe I can... That's probably what it's for, actually. I kind of forgot this seat's freaking 3D. Oh, that's probably how you get me, you freaking dumb bitch. Okay, let's go check out what the frick this underground passage sheet is. Is there... Oh, yes there is. Oh! God, how the fuck do you survive that, bro? Okay, no, I don't want to go up on Chaka. Bitch, drop down. What the fuck? Alright, are these pretty self-explanatory? Where the frick is you supposed to go? Or what? Thank you. Okay. These controls are a little funky here. Just a little bit. I can kind of, I'm starting to understand of the icons when they get faint and sheet. Two gears I'm missing from the mechanism. Okay. Fuck do I get 2 gears from? We should press that more often. Probably highlight some sheet for me. Oh, that's hooked up. All right. But the investing, don't know what the fuck that man's doing. What's up, homie? What the fuck you guys doing down here? What the fuck are these gears for these sheep? I guess I'm not finding out. Okay, so like, is there any easy way of understanding how the fuck to know these underground passageways? Yes, because I can't touch that one.
If you drink the water, the devil comes to you and lures you away with promises. One of the fountains is right there.
Investigate the fountains. Alright, and this one seems, I don't think I need to have fucking skill unlocked for this one. Probably should just maybe do the story more. Do I really want to drink from this?
Come to me. I can give you untold riches. Eternal life can be yours. Everything you desire. Just come to me. Yes. This
The devil! He's here! Dear Holy Mother!
Run! The devil himself!
Cover your ears!
Cover your ears.
I can give you untold riches.
Oh, what? Okay. This drug will indicate the decision of victim will arrive and ambush and you can stay strike immediately. Okay. Interesting. Alright. I'm gonna take a wild guess. This is probably a collectible. Do I care about that? Not really. I'm not doing that. Of course, I freaking take the long way over there. It's fun. I really need to unlock that lockpicking skill. That's not the fountain. I literally passed it up. How the frick did I pass it up? It's because I had to. Wait, what? Oh, it's on the other side. Oh. What? That wall doesn't show up on that frickin' on the map. That's not fair.
Come to me. I can give you untold riches, eternal life. Come back. Don't forsake me.
Oh, you mean to go this way again? Whoa, what the frick? I thought the icon thing was down there.
Come, you will find peace at last.
Oh, really? Oh no, I'm gonna frickin' die. I'm gonna get frickin' ambush.
Come this way.
Oh my gosh, untold riches? No frickin' way. Yeah, you need to. Oh my. Oh shit, there's more. Oh, what is this camera angle? Sit your ass down. Oh, sneak attack. See ya frickin' later, homie. I didn't even get to frickin' loot him? Oh, I could loot this guy. The food. Oh, what kind of playstyle do I want to go for? Maybe we should, I wonder if these are actually be different than all the other sheets. Because the last games, it kind of seemed like it was pretty freaking repetitive with these little assassin missions. It seems like this is, these will be different, hopefully. Just totally teabag that man on accident. Whoops. Sorry, homie. God, dude, that is not humane. What the food? How the fuck do you make that? I can't unlock that, but I will kill you.
Hey, you there! Stop!
What the fuck up, bitch? What the
I'll smash your face.
Oh, really? Shut the fuck up, you stupid bitch.
Stick him from the side.
That was not a parry. Ah, 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 yeah, beach. Still don't think I like the combat in this game, but we're getting used to it. Yeah, you can't even freaking unlock that because I don't have the freaking super sheet. Yo, I'm not even tasting it. I'm freaking looking at it.
Come to me. I can give you untold riches. Eternal life can be yours. Everything you desire. Oh, just count. You will find peace at last.
What you got? Damn, you guys fucking suck, dude. Damn, you guys suck. You gotta learn how to freaking kill people, right? If you're gonna sneak attack someone, dude, you at least gotta be freaking good at it. Okay, well, I still can't do that, so. What are you doing, Ashy? I think we need to do the main stuff. Oh, okay, well these are kind of fitted in the way. Oh, I guess these aren't. Alright, I'm locked behind a lot of sheet, because for one, I need to frickin' unlock lockpicking. So maybe we should do this chest and then like do a freaking main story quest or something. I don't think we're gonna allow me to. I kind of like how the shop is like pretty. Like that one, that guy was just out there in the open. That's cool. That was pretty cool. Do I want to get rid of that? I kind of do. Okay, let's sabotage it. I don't think they like that. Yeah, they didn't like that. Alright, can I get this nomad chest? What's so special about him? Money? Auto it? What the fuck? I didn't get shit. I didn't even fucking show me how much I got. What the? Thing? I guess we're never gonna know how much Nomad chests are worth. Alright. I think I need to, obviously this is the starting quest for the assassin thing, so this is part where I, you know, unlock sheep. God, how the fuck do you make that, bro? So I feel like I would want to choose stealth, but I mean, I feel like that's kind of just like what everybody chooses. Because I mean, it's freaking Assassin's Creed. So maybe I should choose something different, just to kind of like, you know, spice it up a little bit. There's no freaking way that you just made that, my guy. How the fuck do you make that sheep? What the fuck? Looks like I can probably go up right here. Not right there, but if you want to have me go up, you can. Looks like you're gonna let me, so okay, sure. Guess we'll go up here. Low key, dude, these normal chests kind of do. I'm like 100. If I can upgrade that, might be worth it, but as of right now, maybe it's freaking not worth going for that. Like every time a viewpoint happens in the Assassin's Creed franchise, it always it spices it up a little bit. Whether that be like make it like a smoother transition or some shit, but it just feels nice. You're freaking not even barely landing on that sheet. What the? How the fuck do you survive that? Holy FPS drops. Let's bust out this. Reward 0 out of 4. Now that Arrow's in a prison town, trapped down and get some answers from Wolverine. Yep. I agree.
I suppose a simple address would be too mundane.
Et toi, tu verras que le peuple donnera de la voix et qu'il se fera obéir.
Je refuse de faire confiance aux hommes politiques.
Wow, I like how it shows me the area that I'm getting. Or scanning. Do I want to just straight up go up there? Ayo. Oh, is this gonna be one of those puzzle sheets? Didn't that do that last game? Can you please drop down? Thank you. This looks freaking pretty, dude. It's freaking lights, man. Oh, that looks like some freaking parkour to me. I hear freaking ticking, dude. This on the freaking timer. Okay, I'm looking that way. What the fuck you still going straight for? Now that's an entrance and a half to a freaking lair. That's pretty freaking sick.
Took you long enough, pisspot.
What is this place?
The Sanctuary. A place we can train and prepare, away from the eyes of our enemies.
I freaking like it.
Didn't we just escape from a dungeon?
It's not a dungeon. It's a nerve center. From these tunnels, we can get anywhere in the city.
Oh, that's sick, dude. The voice change. Let's see if he does it again.
Everywhere.
Really? Seems visibility would be a problem. Wouldn't you prefer something with a view?
This place has served us well for 600 years, pisspot.
Mm-hmm. And how long were you standing in the dark waiting for me?
Not long. Guillaume spotted you from the bell tower.
Who? Okay, not gonna.
Well, it's quite the entrance.
Are you mocking me?
No, no. God's truth. Very theatrical.
Shut up.
What's up?
So, the son of Charles Dorion returns to us. Belek thought you wouldn't come. What changed your mind?
I'm tired of running from my failures. Monsieur de la Serre, my father. I want to make it right.
The death of Grandmaster de la Serre weighs on you. Why? Did you wield the blade yourself?
Does it matter? The blame still lies with me.
إن ذنوبه تكل كيلي هل أنت متأكد منه؟
أنا كذلك. إنه قادر على مواجهة المحاكمة. سيكون جيدا.
Very well. Out of the dark you come into the light. From the light you will return to the dark. Are you prepared to travel the Eagle's path?
If that's a fancy way of asking, do I want your help? Yes.
Then drink.
And now we get poisoned. God damn, holy freaking choppiness, bro. What the frick? I'm freaking gaining powers. I done drugged my ass. What the fuck?
What's happening?
Drugs? What the frick? What the frick? What in the... Whoa, this is trippy. That was kind of cool. Okay. What the fuck?
Can't I go with you, Father?
Courage, my boy.
Oh,
You wait
that's
just here.
fucking weird.
I will return when this hand reaches the top, and there is to be no mischief.
This is freaking trippy, dude. Those freaking eyes are
Father,
creeping me
where is
out,
that
dude.
boy? I'm certain I told him 6 o'clock. We should be well away by now.
Father, it's me! I'm here!
Dude, freaking eyes are tripping me out. What the fuck? This is sick. What the fuck is happening? What the? Weird combination of buttons to press.
Father, look out!
Oh shit! I showed how he got killed. What the fuck?
Oh, Dieu. He's killed Lord de la Serre.
This is fucking sick. This is fucking cool.
If I leave it here, Monsieur de la Serre will see it the instant he returns.
If you can pluck your head from your own house, come find us. Make a fine fit.
Truly, I am blessed to have such a loyal consideration, my friend.
This is cool, but also weird as fuck. Fuck on my goddamn way. Okay, I guess I was supposed to go behind him. Oh, now it says it. Okay. I can't go through that. Alright. I don't know when it told me that, but alright. I guess I missed it. Oops. Beach. Oh, there's the frickin' two fingers, eyes closed sheet. Your toes? Ow?
By our ancestors, the words that lay at the heart of our creed.
Stay your blade from the flesh of the innocent.
Hide in plain sight.
Never compromise the Brotherhood.
Let these tenets be branded upon your mind. Follow them and be uplifted. Break them at your peril. Rise, assassin.
Oh, yeah.
Arno Dorian is dead. He has been culled from this world, his sins and failures turned to dust. Tonight he is reborn, a novice of the Assassin Brotherhood.
Wow. Okay. Definitely needed to do that to do, you know, a lot of the sheet. All right.
Welcome back. Now that you've experienced life as an assassin, are you willing to pick up the fight and join us? Deacon, load the file.
Coming up.
We lifted a
okay.
medium file
It's
from
not a
Abstergo last
choice.
month, and the information it contains is astounding. But we won't share these things with just anyone. By pressing play, you'll be joining the assassins. If you want to fight the
Okay.
Templar menace, if you're willing to save civilization from Abstergo's clutches, press play, sit back, and ready yourself for the truth.
Okay. I don't have the choice.
Good choice. Welcome to the Assassins, Initiate.
Okay. Would that say at length 2 hours? Okay. This is freaking sick, bro.
In the 1950s, it was theorized that human DNA worked via the triple helix model. Some years later, the work of Crick and Watson demolished this theory in favor of the double helix. Today, we know the double helix to be indisputably the basis of all life. So why did the triple helix theory gain so much traction? Why did Rosalind Franklin's X-rays seem to confirm it? It turns out that their initial samples had been taken from small traces of precursor DNA, the rare genes of an ancient race embedded in our own. We now know that triple helix DNA is the foundation of the precursor genome. It is the genetic Rosetta Stone of our age. If we can crack it open, if we can sequence the full precursor genome, there is no limit to the knowledge we will gain. Using Animus technology, precursor history will be open to us for the first time ever. Ancient languages will be unlocked, and ancient technology will be ours for the taking. Imagine what will be possible if we master the technology that underpins the pieces of Eden.
Okay.
Such discoveries would surpass 100-fold the splitting
yeah,
of the atoms. Last year, we located a rich sample of precursor DNA in a donor whose genes contained human and precursor DNA at an incredible 25-to-1 ratio. Our work will begin with this sample. Our goal is to unravel the triple helix, sequence the precursor genome, and change the world for the better, forever. Welcome to the Phoenix Project.
Okay. It's kind of a cool project, not gonna lie. Okay. Okay, interesting.
So, this is where we stand. Last year, Abstergo acquired the body of a man we call a Sage, one of a rare breed of humans with a surplus of ancient DNA. This sparked a search for more Sages,
Is it the
in the
guy I played?
present and in the past. The more Abstergo finds, the closer they get to their final goal. We've blocked their recent attempts to find more, but Abstergo will not stop looking until they sequence a full precursor genome. So, why Arnaud Dorian? Why chase an assassin through the French Revolution? It turns out, at some point in his life, Arnaud came into contact with another Sage. We need you to find out when and where these meetings took place.
Okay.
If Arnaud was present for this Sage's death, it might lead Abstergo straight to his body. Naturally, we'd like to find it first. This is where you come in. It won't be simple. Genetic memory must be tackled in sequence to keep the data stable. But we're confident you're up to the task. And you won't be alone. Other initiates, assassins just like you, are doing their part to end this fight. If you need more training, more experience, you can call on them for help.
Fuck that.
Loading the next sequence.
Motherfucking help. No offense. Oh, got the freaking outfit on.
I've got something else for you. The more time you spend with Arnaud, the more data we'll have to increase your synchronization with him and to activate his abilities. Here, have a look at this.
Okay. Oh, ha. New assassin abilities have been unlocked in skills many range weapons, assassin's cache, and money pouch, stun grenade, criminal sense, disguise, apprentice locksmith, group healing, Double assassination, thick skin, ramical blending, staggering. Now you're freaking talking my motherfucking language, dude. Oh, dude, so I actually get. Oh, is that a freaking spear? Requirement complete sequence 5, 5, 9, 5, 2. That's just nice to have. How do I unlock these? Okay, so I have 1 sheets. Okay. Oh, so this is where that thing comes in. Because I got this from the, what's it called? It resets in like, what, 24 hours? The ability to create an assassin cache, which allows you and allies to recover bombs and other consumables. That's actually kind of good. A money pouch that can be thrown to attract crowds and equipped to press E. Okay, yeah, that's another sheet. A flop shell that can stun groups of enemies. Okay. Oh, this is a lot more in depth than I thought, dude. The ability to share eagle vision with the allied players. Okay, well I'm not gonna do that because I'm not doing that sheet. The ability to temporarily disguise yourself and your enemies as a such a target. This skill will fail if you get too close to enemies. Go to press Z while facing your target. Don't. That's freaking OP. What the frick? Hey, what's up, Panda? What's up, man? Oh my, look, that's freaking badass, dude. The ability to vanish by becoming interested sitting on a bench or leaning against the wall, walking. Okay, so I have to unlock this, you know? That's freaking sick. The ability to heal nearby players of some damage. Okay. Again, I'm probably gonna skip all of this anything group because I'm not playing multi. I don't believe I am. So I would like to unlock this. So give me the sheet. Oh. Okay, sounds good. Buy a sheet. Yeah. Hell yeah. Okay. And then we're also gonna unlock the lockpicking. Because I would love to see how the lockpicking works. Looks like it's right there. Okay, it looks pretty easy. Alright. Upgrading your boy. Hell yeah, I just unlocked the skills menu and this is freaking sick, man. Okay, so I got 1 left. Can I get any of these health ones? I cannot. Okay, what else can I get with 1? I guess it tells me. Just eventually against the wall. I mean that's I feel like that should just need that.
One last thing.
Alright, sick.
While you've been busy, I had Deacon do some poking around in Arno's memories. Seems he was a busy guy. See that symbol? That's a co-op mission. I play a lot of games multiplayer. I don't know about you, but I thought you'd like to mix it up a little. These are missions Arno ran
cool.
with his
She's
assassin
like,
buddies. So they'll give you an idea of what our organization's about. Just walk into the glitch.
It's cool. She's talking about like third person sheet.
I've marked them on your map.
That's freaking sick. Oh, look at this sheet. One-handed, long, heavy pistols, rifles, guillotine guns. What the fuck? A deadly compound of an axe and a mortar? 150,000? I'm over here thinking I'm rich. What the f? Or 1,000 of that, which is the currency or whatever. Modifiers. You can get modifiers? Requirements: Assassin's Creed, Unity, Death Kings, Playman missions. What the f? I like the OG assassin outfit. Dude, honestly, me too. The artillery that launches devastating explosives while still retaining some of the. What the fuck? The answer is a lightweight guillotine that allows for better pairing. What the fuck? Okay, what kind of rifles you got? Flint musket, a common musket. Okay, that's cheap. Flintlock, it's an entry flintlock. A solid musket uses the National Guard. I feel like this weapon is more accurate than most. Okay, I'm assuming the bars is on how good it is. One of the finest examples of a musket, both in terms of craftsmanship and usefulness. That's pretty cool. A beautifully finished long rifle, often carried by noble and experienced expeditions. Delicate, handcrafted. I can buy this. Alright, I guess let's just check everything out. Common pistol. Oh, I already have these. Oh, I have all these. How did I get these? Ooh, dueling pistol. Fancy pistol. What the f? Oh, what? Excuse me. That looks clean. Excuse me, sir. What in the world? These are freaking pistols? Okay, what you got for heavy? Pickaxe. Hand minigun? What the frick? Bastard sword? Long axe. Oh, I pronounced that sheet. Great sword. Heavy Morningstar. Seaman axe. Heavy cleaver. Round axe. Long sword. Short staff. That's kind of cool. Spiked. Oh god, it keeps going. Great claymore. Heavy war mace. Vikings remains. Great. Oh, that looks kind of sick. This looks kind of dorky. I don't know why I'm looking at this. There's no freaking way I'm affording that. Okay, what we got for long? Oh my god. A hooked shaped pole weapon. This polearm combines the benefits of a spear and a scythe. Dude, I like the variety, dude. There's a hell of variety, bro. This was not an Assassin's Creed freaking Rogue. I'll tell you that shit. The most you had was a freaking pistol, a sword, the 2 daggers, and a freaking rifle. That's pretty much it. You can't, actually, you had to find the rifle. You couldn't even like equip it. Dude, this is freaking sick. I kind of want to try this. Can I equip more than one sheet? Can I equip like a pistol as well? I can't. Okay. So I'm assuming I can what, have like one melee weapon and one pistol? I'm sure I could probably have a rifle too, right? Should I buy this? I'm gonna get more money anyways. Another question is, do we buy the kind of expensive one? No, this kind of looks goofy. I kind of want a rifle. Do we buy this one? And then, or actually, you know what? Maybe we should just buy the first one. No, let's just buy the first one. And then we can just buy more. Any other outfits? I have no idea. I'll have to check that for you. So we already have these. I don't know how I own these, but obviously we should need. Okay, so these 3 are the exact same. They all have the same modifiers. Okay, so now it just comes down to what the frick looks better. What else you got though? Scimitar. Dude, these look freaking cool, man. Oh, yep. We're buying that. Alright, equipment. Here we go. Oh my. Colors. Oh my. Okay. Oh, dude. Oh, I can actually buy it without. Dude, this is sick, dude. Holy customization, bro. What the fuck? Oh, we might have to do some co-op missions to unlock some of this stuff. This is freaking sick, man. Okay, so this does actually affect the gameplay. Guitar reminds me of Sakarashi. Honestly, me too. That's kind of why I want it. Okay, so this sheet actually matters a lot because, like, look, it has stats in the sheet. That's crazy. So I shouldn't even worry about like stuff looking good because I kind of need this stuff. Okay, so we have these two. I guess I can buy one. I have money. Now I'm just looking for what the frick has the best stats. Some of my hair looks like the best so far. Do we want more health? Okay, wait. I gotta figure out what kind of playstyle I'm going for. God, dude, my mind is racing, bro. There's so much stuff I'm thinking about right now. I gotta figure out what I'm gonna lean towards more. Melee, stealth, or ranged? Or should we just go kind of balanced? I have no idea how I want to play this game. This is fucking sick. Do I kind of want to be like a little tanky and do some melee fights? Or should we buff out like stealth and range? Because that's a good combination, right? I don't know if I can get like a silencer or sheet on my gun. Ooh, wonder if I can upgrade that. Probably not. What do you think, Panda? Would you go, how would you play? I know you've never played any of the Assassin's Creed. Wait, you told me that, right? Or was that someone else? No, I think it was you, right? I mean, then again, this stuff is cheap, dude. I could just freaking... Oh, I can upgrade the freaking Eagle Vision range? Oh, wait, these have different modifiers. I should probably pay attention to that. Okay, now I gotta figure out what the frick I'm gonna do now. Assassin's Cast duration. Okay, so that's... I kind of like that. Communal sense range. That's... I don't even... I kind of forgot what that was. Okay, I think we're gonna go with this one because I can't. This cash thing it gives me sheep back, right? I think I need to get that. I'm buying this sheep. Yes. Next. Oh, dude, that's freaking sick. How you can upgrade that, dude? Restricted area damage or detection. Melee armor. Ooh, this is full stealth. Dude, this is fucking sick, man. I need to play more. I need to stop looking at this. Because I can be here for freaking hours looking at this sheet. Because I don't know how the frick I want to play. Frick it, man. Let's go full stealth, dude. Run that sheet. Let's just get a little bit of variety up in the speech. Okay, let's get something ranged. Where's the range sheet at? Literally nothing that I have freaking unlocked involves freaking range. Dude, what the fuck? High profile noise, low profile, additional damage. Oh, that's kind of nice. Oh, that's kind of a little bit of everything. Can't buy this. Okay, I need to get out of this. I need to get out of this menu, bro. I'm gonna be here for freaking 7 years. I need to get the frick up out of here. Oh, now we're talking. Here's the range. I'm thinking about freaking running. I'm going for this, dude. Let's let's go for like a balanced build or some shit. I don't freaking know. Falling damage. That's cool because it's different for each different equipment. Wouldn't this be boots though? Like falling damage and shit? Guess not. That's just kind of nice. Frick it, man. Run frickin' stealth. I have spent $5,000 like nothing, dude. And then there's just outfits. Son of a bitch. Aw, man. The OG, dude. All tears. I forgot how you say that. Aw, Shay. Ezio. Edwards. Connors. Ah, man. All the OGs. These outfits affect the sheet I'm wearing? Because this looks a lot more cool than what I got. Does this affect any of my sheet in here? It does not, okay. Wow, looks sick. Okay, what is this? Active skill. Okay, this is all co-op stuff. Oh, yes. You and Alice to your car bombs. Yes, I'm gonna use this sheet only because it affects me. You put to help. Okay, so I'm not getting that because that's co-op. Not getting that. This is so. These two are good for what I'm doing. These two are for co-op. Probably not gonna use any of these. Okay. Holy freaking crap, dude. I'm getting money. Okay, I'm getting money from doing training. Alright. There's a chest right here. Holy crap, man. I went from like knowing nothing to just explosion of all the content, dude. Holy. Definitely makes me... Oh my. I didn't mean to... Okay, I need to wait till this all goes away. Definitely makes me want to collect sheet now, I'll tell you that much. I want to get everything. Oh, sheet. Oh, frick. It's money. I smell money. Give me my sheet. Frick you think you're going, beach? Nah, I'm still unlocking stuff. Oh, it's because I bought it. Duh. Get your freaking ass over here, Mochaka. Frick you think you're going, beach? Get over here. My freaking money, you beach. You've noticed not my money, but I'm freaking taking that sheet. Ah! Ah!
Is there a reason you're running?
Oh.
I know you, dog.
What? Am I supposed to... Am I supposed to knock him out? Okay, look, I didn't mean... Look, he was stealing. I'm trying to help you guys out. Damn, you guys fucking suck. Alright, where's my sheet? Wow, okay. Where's my, did I not? Oh, okay, you can't have... Alright, what the frick are creed points? Receive creed points for performing assassin's actions. Okay, use creed points to upgrade and customize your gear. Creed points. Wait. That wasn't money? Oh, you said upgrading. Never mind. Oh, it's this sheet. Okay. Oh, okay. Okay. Alright, wow. There's so much stuff on my map now. Holy frick, man. Complete one last exercise. Social club not renovated. Okay. I'm not gonna lie to you, I really want to lockpick some shit right now. There's heists? Excuse me, huh? Okay, where was the other spot at? I want to lockpick some sheep. What is this? Shop. Okay, let's go over there real quick. Dude, I want to lockpick some sheep. Real bad. Okay, let me go to the shop real quick. There's a lot going on, man. I freaking like it, though. New stuff. That's gonna freaking hurt. Oh, God. That hurt. I like how you're outside, dude. That's sick. Ooh, now I'm unlocking some sheep. Ah, so this is where I can do the sheep. Ah, okay. So I need to see where the frick to get these at. I think that's the stuff that I picked up on the frickin' what's it called? Okay, so I can definitely only have. Okay, okay, so I pretty much just kind of wasted money on this. Because I don't know if I'm actually gonna use that. I would like to use this. I would like to try that out. So frick the. Okay. Yeah. So frick the sword, dude. We're going with a frickin' with some sheep. I didn't mean to go out of your sheep. Yeah, refill that sheep. Alright. What's next? Okay, let's do this last sheet, I guess. You guys are not homies. Alright. Let's do this sheet. That's freaking easy. Alright. Oh, I should have went to the customization menu on the weapons. Sheep. If I gotta do that. What's up, homie? Okay, rewards 0 out of 2. Is that the currency sheet?
What's the mission?
Mission. Let's get your arse in position. Don't ask questions, piss pop.
I live to serve.
Damn, I look fucking sick. Man, that outfit looks hella cool. Mission activity is indicated by diamonds. Okay, obviously I kind of figured that. More diamonds, more difficult the mission is and stronger enemies. Your pro level is also represented by diamonds. The more diamonds, the higher your level. Buying new skills and better equipment increases your power player level. Okay, so what, I'm freaking 2 right now? Yes, okay. Ringers will run for the bell if a conflict is triggered. Okay, so I already freaking asked you. Killicod, okay, cool. So, frick all the optional sheep. Probably not gonna do that. Just because I'll be here for 9 years. How the fuck do I want to do this here? Where am I at? I am not on the floor. Now I am. Alright. Let's see. How do I want to do this? Could try and use some weapons. How do these things work? Wow, that's a freaking huge area. Okay, can I cancel this? Yes, I can. Okay. Wow, that's a freaking massive area. Okay. Freaking watch this. Surprise beach. Ah! Damn. Alright. Well, that was fun. I feel like it's not worth looting them homies if I don't if my sheet's already full. So maybe we won't do that.
Lord Guillaume de Roussel has generously agreed to our price of 40%.
An act of desperation. What about the priest?
He'll come around.
Your confidence is infectious, Sivert. My boys will have the wagon ready.
Here are the details. Make sure it goes smoothly.
Of course. Make sure that it goes smoothly, cretin. When have I... Murder! Murder!
These bastards always have bodyguards. Well...
Next time, do that before he starts screaming.
Why do we hang about here when Sivert still lives? He killed Monsieur de la Serre.
Patience. Sever's not the target. Not today.
Jesus Christ.
Council's waiting for a report.
Press forward slash mode, could you press that drop or respond based on design? Blah 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 blah.
Give him a smoke bomb! Get into his blood! Firing yet? Need a breather. So slow! You're like...
Ow!
Come on.
Just keep up with him more like frickin' get ahead of him. Frickin' slow sheep.
Time to wear your cape.
I would love to. Yeah, that's you know, like. 1 second. Hey, how's it going? I'm just kidding. Guy, kill him at least. Ow. Watch his dodge skills. You guys ain't got shit on me. You ain't got shit. Oh, like that sheep. Come on, let's check out I'm following. Just got some homies following me. It's good though. Oh no, I lost him. Assassination mission? Oh, I probably should finish this first. Oops.
Merde. Patriots. These imbeciles will pick a fight with anyone. Try not to draw their attention.
Shouldn't we stop them?
Stop them. Avoid them. Doesn't matter. There's always more fanatics. Can't save everyone, piss Bob.
I don't know.
Well,
Fuck.
there's a cheery thought.
Extremists in red harass the population. They are paper Templars. They can recognize you and attack you anywhere in the city. Okay, so red, bad.
Remy found Monsieur Arcanon's body in a courtyard not far from here.
God damn it. Oh. Oh, I'm supposed to kill somebody. Oh wait, oh that's an option. That's a different shit. Okay, oops. Yeah, I'm still doing this mission.
Careful, Pispo. You'll hurt someone.
What the fuck you mean? That's oh wow, okay.
Just trying not to strain your heart.
Oh.
Just trying not to strain your heart.
Fuck that. I'm freaking on my own way, beach. Oh, that was kind of sick. Excuse me. Sorry.
You call that a run?
Oof.
Careful, Pispo. You'll hurt someone.
Yeah. That's my. Ooh, I was gonna grab this.
Need a break?
Got him. Guards in blue always attack extremists in red first. Avoid attacking them to reduce conflicts. Okay.
I'll still be running when you're dead.
What's this guy red? Oh. Yeah, that was a good. I did that.
I can't believe this. We've not seen Seaver for a year, and you're letting him walk. All because his name
God,
wasn't
that's
on a
sick
bloody
how it
piece of-
changes. Oh, I didn't mean to skip that, sorry.
Hey, Honor.
So, you can replenish your tools, ammunition, and medicine in the shops. Yes, I kind of figured this out. Just thought they found near faster responses, social clubs, find more shops with synchronized points or more of that. Got it.
So what happens next?
We take this ledger full of Templar records to Mirabeau.
3 more
Proceeds to
Templars
be-
killed last night. Wasn't us.
You don't seem
Templars
terribly
have been
fond
killing
of
each
him.
other like it was going out of fashion
He's a
since 89.
politician.
A Templar
Sees
civil
himself
war.
as a great peacemaker.
Would this complicate things?
He thinks he can
or
end the
make
war
our
between
lives
assassins and Templars, bring the revolution to a happy conclusion, and convince dogs and cats to live together in peace.
And that's bad?
It's a self-aggrandizing pipe dream. Templars are at their weakest since Jacques de Molay burned. We're running around after second-rate smugglers. All because Mirabeau wants to secure his legacy.
Well, the customs agents of France can rest easy. Arpinot's dead.
Got him.
Shaking down imprisoned nobles seems a bit out of his oeuvre. What are the Templars up to?
If we hadn't spent the last year hobbled by your damn truce, we might know that.
Got him.
He has a point, Honoré. The truce was with Grand Master de la Serre.
The man's been dead for 2 years. Whoever's in charge now, you can be certain they aren't sitting idle.
We might have learned more had we not allowed Seaver to escape.
Seaver was there?
I know your heart is set on keeping the peace, but bringing Monsieur de la Serre's killer to justice would count for something, wouldn't it?
Yes, it would.
Damn.
But do not confuse your personal vendetta with a sound strategy.
Sounds
He
like I
wants
know
to
what the
kill
frick I'm talking about.
Templars. Let him kill Templars. I've done all I can. Boys ready?
Very well. Assassin. I charge you to go to Notre-Dame de Paris and to find there the Templar agent, Charles Gabriel Seaver. You will learn his secrets, and when you have done so, you will bring him peace in accordance with our tenets.
Frick, say less. Easy frickin' money. I don't know how I got 2 out of 2, because I missed a challenge. But I guess that means I got 2 skill points, right? You can use the progress track to retry this mission. Complete options. Yeah, frick that shit. I am going the wrong way.
Ah, no. My friend, how are you?
Shut the fuck up.
My friend.
Yeah, shut the fuck up. Alright. Haha. Yes, that's what it is. Okay. Let's see what else I can get. Fuck that. Can I get that thick skin? Yes, I can. Give me that sheet right the frick now. Run that sheet. Okay, so what's up with the frickin' upgrades? Okay, I don't want to use that. Okay, I need 500. Okay. What about this other sheet? I haven't used. You know what? I'm not gonna buy any upgrades for that sheet. Alright, I think we're gonna kill this target, and then we're gonna frickin' probably end for today. I still wanted to hit my 3-hour mark because last stream was only like an hour. Does this have to be played co-op? Cause Where's... Yes, that's right. So you gotta wait a little bit. I got a freaking target to kill. So, Beach, this shit looks freaking... This doesn't even look freaking deep. Okay, these little orange guys are the event things. Sorry, homie. Oh, just supposed to... Oh, I was just supposed to attack him. Oh, 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 lock chest. Oh, I gotta kill this guy. This is a quest, never mind. I am walking right next to it. Okay, hold up. Well, there's a lot going on here. What the frick is a companion mission? Okay, no, I'm getting that frickin' chest. Okay, there's a lot going on my screen. I don't know if I appreciate it. Give me this frickin' chest. Let me unlock this sheet. Where the frick is this stupid ass frickin' chest at? Where's that sheet at? Looks like it's, Dude, you can totally frickin' make that jump, my guy. There you go. What, didn't you tell me frickin' press control? Alright, here we go. Let's see. Ah! I'm a frickin' god. Give me some good sheet. Frickin' first try. I didn't know what the frick I was doing. Yeah, 1,000? That's kind of freaking nice. Okay. I freaking like that. We are unlocking every single freaking lock pick sheet. Maybe it is good to loot enemies because these motherfuckers just give me lock picks. That is very much yes. It's a lot of money. I'll take that sheet. There's no way you. Okay, I was about to say there's no way you can't jump that. That's all the shit I've seen you do. Oh, shit. We gotta check out their artifact as well. Oh, frick. Is this the one I was... Okay, no. We gotta grab this so quick. We gotta see what all the sheets do. This is definitely down here. Alright, what the frick are these artifacts? Aw, this is freaking collectibles. Well, I could have guessed that, but I thought it meant like there's more sheet to it. What the? Ooh. Boring. What the frick did I do? There's a lot of stuff to do, and I freaking like it, man, because I'm gonna be busy playing this. Oh, see. What does it mean by fucking companion man? Companion mission? What is this? Oh, it's in the map. Where does it show? Oh, F3. Okay, so it only gets okay. Okay, so these are okay. No, so it ranges from stealing to killing, which is a lot of these. Steal, kill, steal, ooh, protect. Paris stories. Dude, look at how much sheet there is right here, bro. Look at that. 1,000, 2,000, 3,000, 4,000, 5,000. It's like, what, 7 grand right there? Frick it, maybe we'll only go for locked chest, to be honest. We gotta check out this heist stuff too. I kinda wanna try it right now. Freaking run and do this. Try this shit right now. Can I just launch it from here? It's locked. I don't know why I can't do it.
Help us.
Frick it, dude. We gotta check this heist sheet out before we end. This will be the last thing we do for sure. I'm pretty sure I can fast show over there, but we need to get better at the traversing anyways. I mean, we're not gonna be officially playing this game probably anytime soon. Probably take like months and months for me to finish the Cairo, which I'm completely down with. But it is nice to kind of know what I'm getting myself into when I do play this game now. Cause I'm gonna be fucking busy. This game's gonna take a freaking hot minute, dude. This is a lot of stuff to go through. We're gonna fucking be here for a while. Damn, my health bar really is a lot more. Damn. I don't know how long these take, but it did mention something about stealth gives you more sheet. Sorry, I'm busy. Can't help. My bad. Let's freaking freaking run it. Let's try it. I don't know what half that currency is that was showing up. Probably should look at it longer.
The Hotel Dieu, the oldest hospital in Paris. Centuries older than the famous Notre Dame Cathedral, which is down the street. Hospitals, as we know them, haven't exactly been invented yet. So you're more likely to get sick inside than to leave cured. The Templars are using the building's sewers to smuggle out artifacts they stole from Notre Dame. Go in and get the goods.
Okay. That seems pretty easy. A freaking sheetload of homies. Holy frick. I did not mean to do that. Guess we're over here now. Alright, let's see here. Let's see here. How do we want to do this? Quickly assassinate this guy. I probably won't be able to hear him. But then again, I need to get better at the combat anyways. Frickin' parry. Okay, I guess you can't really combo parries that easy. Or like switch targets to parry. I guess I'm used to frickin' rogue and it being easy as frick. I can't assassinate this guy now. Maybe I can't. Where is this artifact news? Oh, it's because I had to go down. It showed me a thing, but I still was not paying attention. They freaking like this traverse thing I got going on right now? Oh, frick your bell, beach. Give me your sheet. Oh god, this is not. Oh, frick it, run it. It's fighting again. Never mind, no we're not. What was the button for the pistol again? I already had that equipped, right? I just had to press the button. What button is that? F? It's freaking right click. Oh yeah, because I gotta. Okay. Alright, let's not do what we're doing now. Okay, let's get a little more efficient here. I cannot chuck stuff out of that. That's kind of disappointing. How was I able to kill you before without getting detected? Food. Also, why don't we come in like through a different way? Okay, you're not really making this too easy for me, sir. I didn't toss it. You're not really making this just too easy for me, sir. I'm kind of having some freaking issues here. The frick did I do so clean last time? Okay, let's go through. God, there's freaking homies everywhere. Doesn't really help me out at all to get over there. What the fuck did I? What the fuck? There's no one walking around. Freaking assassin this guy. Totally assassin this guy. 110%. 120% I can kill this beach. I just need this dumb beach to freaking move. Yeah, boy. I don't know why I'm going all the way back over here. Definitely not my smartest move, but it is a free kill. I wish I had some like daggers and shit. Oh my god, you're really... Oh my god, that man... Oh my, that man fooked me up, dude. Oh, what the fook. That man fooked me up a little bit, not gonna freaking lie. I could just go for a full clear, to be honest. Freaking run that, dude. We're going for a full clear. Makes my life freaking easier anyways. I'm gonna get this man away. Okay, he goes over there for a while. I can definitely kill him over there. So let's freaking reset. Figure out how to get over there. Unless he's just gonna come to me and freaking give me a free kill, which is exactly what he's freaking doing. Because he's freaking dumb. And I can totally just freaking smoke bomb these guys. Freaking see ya freaking later, chumps.
Hold them on.
Everything's fine. Look at that. Easy money. These homies didn't come by. See. Oh no. Freaking homies died. Or they just don't give a shit. Okay, that works too. I mean, they kind of do. They're just over there. now we got all these homies bunch of. I freaking killed all these guys over here, and there's freaking a hell of guys over there. What the fuck? I really need this man to not to. Really bad timing, sir. Terrible timing, homie. What the fuck? Oh my god, there's a whole freaking thing down here, bro. This place is in depth as shit. Yeah, I've really got a freaking traverse right here, dude. Well, it was kind of. I'm pressing the wrong button to parry. It's probably why I'm not freaking parrying. Okay, at least we didn't cause any alarms with Gucci.
Just as I thought.
Just give me that shit. Don't tell me I had to leave. Shit. What the frick up, beach? Oh man, I have to freaking escape the area, dude. Son of a freaking beach. Okay, I mean the reward is still pretty Gucci. Freaking 3-4. I don't know what the frick you actually 100% get. I mean, aside from the little freaking thing that popped up, but it was a little scuffed, but I mean, we made it work. I'm just gonna figure out how the frick to get out of here. Pretty sure I have to go the same way I freaking came in. Kind of forgot. Pretty sure everybody's dead here. Oh, man. I must have got lucky with the other ones because I freaking hacked this shit out of that hella quick. Hella freaking quick, dude. Pretty sure I can just go this way because I'm pretty sure they're in the same position as they were before. Yes, sir. See you frickin' later, chumps. Easy frickin' money. Give me my frickin' reward. I don't even know what happened. Yeah, I feel like that's really not that much money. That really does not feel like that much for the amount of stuff I did. I can get that with like one frickin' thing. Not gonna lie, dude. Kinda frickin' booty. Alright, we're gonna dip. I feel like today was pretty successful. We kinda got a little dibble dabble of what the frick we're gonna be happening when we play Unity. Then again, we're not